Hello, divine beings. We are happy to be here in your presence. We are honored to be able to answer your questions. We look forward to seeing the ways that you want to grow, expand, know, contract, move sideways, move up and down, move laterally, move through space, move through time, and just figure out the general oneness of who you are and how that connects with the world around you. We would love to know who has the first question today.
Tina, you want to go or shall I go?
You.
Okay. All right. So I've been experimenting with this new, oh, sorry, let me put so I'm not in the glare. Really, I've been working to hold boundaries with my son. And found us, I found us in a place yesterday where I wanted him to go to church with me and then go to this dinner with a friend, actually the brother of his godfather, and he refused. And he basically said, "You've taken away everything, so why should I do it?" So I found myself in this very, place of, we have no relationship, like we have no family. And if we have no family, then, I was really, really disappointed when he didn't show up to go to the dinner. And I thought, that's it. He needs to find another place to live. I don't want to live with somebody who doesn't care about me or our family. I back in, so then I backed down from that, and I woke up this morning thinking, so I guess my question is, and Megan in the healing talked about listening to your heart. I get confused in terms of holding these boundaries. I did have a conversation with him where I said, there's 3 criteria for you living here: drug-free, being in school, learning or earning, working full-time, and being a loving, kind, productive member of this family. And just in saying that, like saying, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to come on this vacation with me, this family vacation that I planned, then you're choosing to live someplace else. Well, he had to go sulk for a few minutes, telling me he doesn't, we need to talk about this in family therapy because, with a family therapist, because I'm not making any sense. But then he came back and he had done a 180. And I just really, I hate being in this, it feels like I'm in this position where the only thing left to take away so that he functions as a productive member of society and productive member of this family is, I wouldn't be taking away being his mother, but I would be taking away living here. So I hope you can hear a question in that.
Yes. So the difficult thing about boundaries is, as we know, we can't control other people's behavior. Yes. So a boundary is not, you must do this or you mustn't do that, because there's no way to enforce that. Somebody can simply say no. And then where are we? Yes. And so boundaries are really about, how do you want to be treated? How do you want to exist? What do you want your life to look like in these different roles? Yes. So that is why we have different boundaries at work than we do at home. Yes, because there are different ways in which we want our life to be in those different places. The difficult thing happens is if someone then says no. Yeah. So if you say, my boundary is that it is important to me that we have family time. Yes. Not that you arrive here at a certain time, but that, as you said, we have a loving and supportive family. You then have to decide, it is then on you to decide whether you are in a situation where you feel like you have a loving and supportive family. It is not on him because he is taking his own actions. Yes.
Yeah.
And so we think you already know because when you checked in with your heart in that moment, it did not feel loving and supportive. Correct?
Correct.
So then you have to decide, what do I want to do about my behavior, about my life, about my circumstances as a result of that information? And it actually has very little to do with him. This is obviously very different if your child is 2 and having a tantrum. Yes, this is a whole different thing. But
Yep.
he has grown. Yes,
Yep.
and he has made some choices that he wants to be independent. These are his boundaries. He feels it is important for him to live his life a certain way. And so you have to look at where those things overlap and where they don't. Yes.
Mhm.
And as you said, it does not preclude you from loving him any more or less, whatever you choose to do in response to checking in with your heart and realizing that you are not living life in the way that you need to. Yes. And that he is not living with you in that way. But you are doing everything you need to do, which is you are communicating to him clearly what's important to you. You are communicating to him clearly when he does something that isn't in alignment with that. And you are communicating to him clearly what the consequences are. But the tricky part is to figure out, again, where is that wiggle room, right? Because if we had a 2-year-old that was tantruming, we're obviously not going to boot them out of the house. Yes, even though one of our things we would like to live in alignment with is not being screamed at. So the work you have to do here is in figuring out where that protection bubble is for you. Where do I end and he begins? And how do I protect my space? Because again, you cannot control other people. All you can do is protect your own space. And also, to be clear, boundaries are about letting people in as much as they may be about avoiding certain behaviors. We won't say keeping people out because that is not what they're about. They're about avoiding certain behaviors or certain attitudes or words, et cetera, et cetera. But boundaries are also about, you stated them very clearly, this is who I want in my bubble. I want someone who is loving and productive and et cetera, et cetera. Yes, this is who I want to surround myself with. And we feel that it is at a point where it is very good for you to communicate this with him clearly and follow through. Because this is an area that he needs to understand. And we are also at a point where, as he says, you have taken everything away from me. I think the thing that is hurtful for you is he is not acknowledging that you are providing him with home and shelter and food and love. And you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean I've taken everything away from you? I am providing you with all of these amazing things. And it is hurtful to me that you don't see them. Yes?
Yeah.
But sometimes we can tell someone it is hurtful to me that you don't see them and they cannot process it. They do not bring it in. And so then the only way to go forward is to take action and say, well, I don't feel comfortable providing something like this to someone who isn't in alignment with my boundaries. And sometimes what happens is when it gets taken away, that's what it takes for the person to realize it was there in the first place.
Right.
Yes, it is like that idea of trying to describe what being wet is to a fish. It's all around them. How would they know? But if you pulled them out of the water and they experienced air for a minute, oh, they would understand what wet is pretty quickly, yes?
Yep.
So it may be and it may be that is what needs to happen. And we understand that is more uncomfortable or less desirable than the idea of verbally communicating to him what your needs are and having him understand. But as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure everyone on this call knows, a lot of times as humans, we have to actually experience something before we can understand it. We can hear about it over and over again, but until you've gone through it, you don't quite get it, yes?
Yeah.
And so what you are doing is helping him with another level of learning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hearing you speak, one of the things I want to communicate to him is that I will not accept crumbs. In other words, it's not okay if you're nice to me for these 10 minutes, but then you do something disrespectful the rest of the day.
Yes.
And so I will not accept crumbs, and your behavior is cumulative. So you may, if you are disrespectful periodically over the next week, it may take just one more thing for me to say that's it. And it might seem, unfair to you that I'm kicking you out because you didn't come to a family dinner. And it will have been cumulative.
Yes. And isn't he being quite a teacher for you, that you are now understanding that you will not accept crumbs in life?
Yeah.
And that people's behavior is cumulative. And it's helping you learn how to take care of yourself better.
Yeah.
Yes. Let go of the fact that he may not understand the why of everything you're saying. It doesn't matter. You are not doing this so that he will understand why. You are doing this for your own growth. Period. And if he understands the why, that's a cherry on top. And if he doesn't, then this will be the first time he hears it. And clearly he needs to hear it again from someone else in some other life circumstance. Yes, we are presented these lessons over and over. Yes, clearly this is lesson 1 of 5, 10, 50, 100 before he gets it. But don't feel like you have to be the one.
Right.
This has to be the moment. You are stating your truth.
Yeah.
And if he understands it, fantastic. And if he doesn't, fantastic. You don't have any control over that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very good question. We are pleased to see you refining the way in which you exalt yourself.
It's a pure irony that it is motherhood that is calling me to this to growth and boundaries, because the pervasive ideology about motherhood is that it should be a time of self-sacrifice.
Yes.
And I've sacrificed for 18 years.
Yes.
So
yes. And you are in the unique position of having to embody the divine feminine and the divine masculine in yourself for one person, which is karmically you took on a bigger chunk, yes, than some other people.
Yeah.
But that is good for all of life, is learning how to balance those things.
Yeah.
Yes. So
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Would anyone else like to ask something today?
So my question might be a bit like trite of sorts, but
no such thing.
I've been so back in 2020 when the pandemic started, it was like a good thing for me in a way. But now that it's not, it's more like a hindrance, and I don't know, I'm not liking it. So I think that back in that year, it was very clear the purpose of everything that was happening, at least for most people, like to stop and look inside and reflect on things that we were too busy, etc., right? But now that it's like affecting me, I know it sounds a bit now like, because it's very different, and these new variants make us feel like it's like square one in a way. So yeah, I it's like I want like some kind of reason to keep going, you know, some kind of what are these lights in the middle of the ocean called? I forgot the word, but like
The buoy?
yeah, something to keep going, like a beam of light to keep.
Lighthouse. Lighthouse?
Yeah, thank you.
Lighthouse.
Yeah, like a lighthouse. I need like a light. Yeah, there's like a solid ground on the other side of this thing because I need it right now. Yeah.
So we will say two things about this. One is, although the state of being adrift, of being unmoored, of being in the middle of the ocean and not knowing where land is deeply uncomfortable, because humans like to feel steady, safe. Yes. It is also an important and necessary part of the cycle of change. Yes. And one may argue that this period of the pandemic has been a longer period of that than most of us would find tolerable or comfortable, to the point where we become increasingly unmoored or lost or depressed or apathetic, et cetera, et cetera. But we would say that that is really a symptom of wanting to be in a different moment than you're in. Yes, which, as the Buddha said, is the cause of all suffering. Yes. We would invite you to say to yourself, this is different. And this is not what I would have wanted it to be. We accept that. And here I am. If I stopped trying to make things different than how they are, what could I see in this moment? If I approached this moment with the beginner's mind, meaning I have decided for the moment as a practice to let go of the thought of being unhappy about it, or that I don't like it, or that I wished it was something else, or that I wished I was somewhere else, or that I had more certainty. If I let go of all of those thoughts, all of those feelings, just as an experiment in the moment. And I thought, well, here I am. What is here? Like an explorer coming to a new place for the first time. And instead of thinking, I don't like this place, I don't like being adrift, we let that go. I don't have a like or a dislike about this moment. It just is. Here I am. What do I notice about this place? What do I notice about this moment? How can I be open and curious to what's happening now? And oftentimes this will help shift the thought pattern, the mindset, the beliefs about the situation. Because really, there is a part of our reality that is the external circumstances. Yes, and we can't ignore that. And I'm not saying to put it aside. Again, that's why I'm saying this is an experiment. This is just something to do for a moment to see how it changes or see if new things come to you. But we can also then, from that experiment, take what works. If there's something that occurs to you in that state of a beginner's mind, in that state of approaching something, like I am new, this is my first day on earth, I plop down here and these are the circumstances I'm in. What do I notice? Just what do I notice? Good, bad, indifferent, what do I notice looking at it from a fresh perspective? Decide what you want to take from that perspective, from that experiment, and see if you can incorporate it into your life. So that is one thing. The other thing we will say is that looking for those lighthouses is healthy, is important, because what you are looking for is really your personal values on how you want to live your life. Everyone's lighthouse is going to look a little bit different. For some people, that lighthouse, that land may be a community of people. For other people, it may be a particular place on earth that they feel very comfortable. For other people, it could be work that they really enjoy, or being in a relationship that really fulfills them. Yes, everyone has different lighthouses. And so the important thing is to be apart from your lighthouse so that you can start to think about, what does my lighthouse look like? What am I missing that feels like safety and dry land? Because it's going to be different for you than anybody else. And so you can also look at this as an opportunity to really think about what that means for you. Because for you, with your life purpose and your karma, et cetera, is going to be different than for anybody else. And so it would be very interesting as an experiment to ask 100 different people, knowing what you know now, having lived through the pandemic, what's important to you for your life? We would get 100 different answers. Yes. But you can be sure that many of those people may not have even stopped to think about that unless we had this time where everything changed. Yes. It is sort of like we were talking to Kathy and we said sometimes things have to be taken away for us to understand that they were even there in the first place. I felt safety and comfort and security for all these years, and now I don't because it was taken away by the pandemic. And now I know which direction I need to go to get it back. Now I know it's important to me. Yes. If you lived your whole life wearing a warm coat, living in a cold climate, and you never knew that you had a coat on and somebody took it away one day, you'd realize, being warm is important to me. Yes. So sometimes it is the lack of things that helps us reevaluate what it is we really want. So we would say, do those two things in concert. One, try to pretend you are a brand new soul plopped into your body. Boop, here you are in your circumstances, in your life, in this time, right now. What do I notice? What do I see? What am I experiencing without any preconceived judgments? What am I drawn to? What do I not like? Yes. And then the second one is to understand that this is so that you can cultivate the best piece of land possible for your lighthouse to be on. What do I want when I get to that place of dry land? What have I been missing? What do I crave? What does my soul want? Yes. And so to look at those two things together and see what answers pop up.
Yeah, I guess that now that I'm hearing all of that, with the code example, I think that what I'm feeling is like, yeah, but now there's no way to get the code back, like a sense of despair of what if what I realized that is extremely important to me is not going to be available for me ever.
And so sometimes what it means is we have to then look at, what did the coat do for me? The coat kept me warm. So maybe there's another way, a better way, a different way for me to be warm. Maybe what I need is a fire with people around me laughing and eating and singing and dancing. Maybe that's how I need to stay warm. Yes, does that make sense? So don't despair that the old way of doing things isn't available, because if it's something that your soul is calling for, if it is part of your values, your desires, the universe will find a way to meet that. But that is why it is important for you to stay open. Yes, to recognize what our needs are, to recognize what our values are, and then say, okay, I am open to this coming to me in the most exquisite way possible, better than I could even imagined. Yes. And so take a moment to mourn the old way leaving. Take a moment to mourn that you don't have a coat anymore, and that you're cold, and that sucks, and it's uncomfortable, and you don't like it. And then also be open to, and I am open to a new way of being warm that feels even better. And you can hold both true at the same time. Yes, this is one of sort of the, we would say, advanced modules of humaning. Yes, is being able to hold both at the same time. I am grieving and I am open. Or you can switch back and forth. You can have a moment where you are crying and angry and pissed and why? And then the next day be like, all right, and now I am ready to manifest. Now I am ready to be open. Your tears are showing you where there is sadness in you. And where there is sadness in you is a place where you can open yourself up and say, I have a need and I am ready to have it met. And it may be that the reason you are having to go through this and have this old way of fulfilling the need go away is because you are ready to have it met in a way that is even better than it was before. But that in between time, as we spoke of, that time where you're on the ocean and you are cold and you have no coat and you don't see the lighthouse, is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable so that you can dig deep and figure out, what is it that I need? What is it really that I need here? I need a coat and I need to be on dry land, or I need to be warm and I need to be on dry land. Yes. And then send it out there. All right, I am ready. And take steps towards that. What are the other ways of being warm? What are the other ways of navigating to find that lighthouse? I am open to learning about them. And that's when the breadcrumbs show up. The spiritual breadcrumbs do not show up if you are holding on to the old way of, the only way to be warm is to have a coat. The only way to be warm is to have a coat. And I don't have a coat anymore and nobody's making any coats and I can't have a coat. It is fine to do that. It is fine to grieve and be angry and all of that. And say, and I am learning and I am here to grow. And I do not know what new ways are out there, what ways I don't understand yet, don't know of, what ways I wasn't ready for before, but now I am. To stay warm, I am open. Show me the breadcrumbs. Yes?
Yeah, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Such a good question. And see, you thought it was, what did you call it? A trite question. And yet you are asking the secret to being a happy human. So you're asking the most important question.
Thanks.
Anna, do you have a question today?
I don't think I do, and it's really interesting again, Georgina, because I think that was probably the question I needed to ask, but I didn't know. Because I think I'm going through a phase at the moment where I'm like feeling a lot of anger and a lot of like sadness at the same time and a lot of excitement at the same time, and it's like it's all a bit like exhausting and I don't really know. Yeah, I'm kind of like feel like I think I kind of covered this in like another call, like sort of just like going through the motions towards something, but I'm kind of getting a little bit tired, not tired of it, but just like you've gone on a long hike, kind of tired and you need to sit down for a bit.
And what we were going to say
So,
when you
yeah.
first started speaking is, how do you carve out moments of stopping for yourself?
Yeah, that's always the question, isn't it?
How do you carve out moments of peace?
I think I do it quite sporadically rather than planned, because, which is really interesting with Georgina's answer, because I think that I need the coat and I'm annoyed that I haven't got the coat, and I'm like focusing on that. And I think it's hard not to focus on it, because I really, really want it to be that, you know. And so I think, yeah, I suppose that idea of just sitting with, I'm open to this, I'm open to it being in different ways, and that's okay, and not like being pissed off that I have to do it a different way. Yeah, so I suppose like a concrete example is like, I really like going for walks, but I don't necessarily like going for a walk around like the area that I live in. I'd rather go somewhere, but I don't have a car at the minute, so I can't do that. So it's like, I'm like, oh, I'll have to go for a walk around here then. So I'm almost doing it, out of like
But we would
obligation or
say,
something.
you have identified something that's important to you, yes, which is, I like to go for a walk in a different area than where I'm in. And then you have, like, of course, identified the impediments. I don't have a car, et cetera, et cetera. So you have given us the perfect example of what you can do. You have identified where your lighthouse is, where you want to go. Open yourself up to possibilities of that being different, and then also take steps in that direction. Maybe you post something online saying, does anyone else like hiking in this area or walking in this area? And has a car and would want a walking buddy. Maybe you meet your new partner, your best friend, your collaborator, your mentor, your mentee that way. Yes, you never know. But it's like, once you identify that something is important for you, then your tool that you have is to start communicating about it.
Yeah.
Start talking to people about it, start posting about it, start mentioning it. Because the transit ways of energy, the paths of energy, the roads of energy aren't going to fully come to you. Yes, it is like a flow of water, but it is stopped right now. It is not connecting to you until you open yourself up to communicating, I am ready for this. I need this. This is what I want. And then the frustrating part, as you said, is waiting for it to happen. Yes, or expecting it to happen in a certain way and it doesn't happen that way. And so again, as we said before, it is this important practice of cultivating the beginner's mind. I have zero expectations, zero awareness of how this is supposed to work. Yes. I am just here observing and being sort of in awe and amazed. If you think of the beginner's mind as well, a baby is amazed and in awe of everything. You hold up a red plastic brick in front of it. Woo,
Oh, wow.
Right? I hold up a red plastic brick in front of someone who is 35 and they do not care. Yes. So cultivating that awe, yes, that we have in all of us is also important.
Yeah.
And so maybe what that means for now is you walk around in your neighborhood and you stop in front of the one nice tree that's there and you just stare at it in awe.
Yeah, I think I've lost the awe a little bit. Because why? Because it almost doesn't feel important enough, or it's like silly, which feels silly for me to even say that, because I tell my clients the complete opposite. So I feel a bit like a hypocrite, I suppose, in that sense.
And like everything else we have talked about, there is always the balance. Yes. So there is time to be the wizened, hardworking old soul part of you. And there is also time to be the new, fresh, awe-filled new soul part of you. But knowing when you need what is part of that journey of knowing yourself. Because sometimes what nourishes us is to just get shit done.
Yes.
And sometimes what nourishes us is to just sit under a tree and stare at the structure of the branches and be in awe of how that tree grew. But too much on one side or the other, and of course we will become out of balance. It is the yin and the yang. Yes, work, 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 yang, 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 move forward, hunt, conquer, build. And then the yin of, oh my goodness, look how amazing this world is. Look how amazing I am. Wow, this place is cool. I am sitting here and taking it in and letting the creative force come into me and through me. Yes, we need both. We need both. So maybe the problem is just that you are too much in the yang energy right now, which, as we have spoken of before, is very easy to do in the way that the system is set up right now. Yes. There's a lot of that masculine energy in the current culture. And so sometimes it takes almost some bravery to say, I'm not going to do that. I know that balance is important. I am not going to spend the majority of my time in yang energy because I know that that is not healthy. I know deep in my soul that is not healthy. And so you may tell me that I have a deadline of tomorrow, and what I am going to tell you is that I need to sit under a tree. And we will move the deadline and life will not end. Yep. So you have all the answers. You already know what you're craving and what you're looking for. And what would make you feel better. And now just let go of the notion that it has to be the coat that keeps you warm.
I'm sensing a blog coming up here from Megan.
Could be. Guest post by Saul.
No, it's good. It's a good analogy.
Good. Yes. And just to say too that the nature of being a human is remembering this, acting on it, and then completely forgetting it again. And then having to be reminded because you get a little miserable and remembering it. Yes. And that is not bad or good. It just is. That is part of how this incarnation is set up. It is like saying sometimes the bird is flying and sometimes it is standing. That is not bad or good. That is just how the bird is. Yes. So to remember that if you are in that cycle, yes, you are in that cycle of change and the pendulum is swinging back and forth, that you are doing it right. In fact, there is no other way. It is a continuous cycle of, oh, I am miserable. I forgot. Oh, I remember now. I'm supposed to have a balance. And then you swing the other way. Oh, I am miserable now. Oh no, I forgot again. I'm supposed to have a balance. Yes. It is just the nature of things. And good question.
It's quite funny. Is there going to be a different way eventually?
Well, yes, when you rejoin the collective, there is no time and space. And so there is no ability to get out of balance, because being out of balance means you have throughout time moved one way. Yes. And in time will move another way. But if there is no time and space and all is infinite and all is equal, then things cannot be out of balance.
Mhm. Then is it boring?
We will say that most souls, almost all souls, in fact, are very excited to come incarnate. We don't know that they would say the word boring, but they are excited to experience the contrast, to experience time moving forward, to experience the change, to experience the rubbing up against something that's not easy, to experience breaking through and feeling that awe and that joy.
Mm.
They do get quite giddy and excited to experience that.
So we get to have this pendulum effect
Mhm.
rather than we have to.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. And that is, of course, when you look at the hallmark of what you would call the enlightened souls, yes, you get someone who says, ooh, I hurt my foot. How exciting, I have a foot and it hurts.
Yeah.
And oh, this is uncomfortable and I don't like it. But also, oh my goodness, right? Someone who can stay in that awe, right? Who
Mhm.
has that balance in the moment of being in awe and also experiencing the pain and the discomfort. Yes.
Mhm.
That really is something hard to master, but something that we know that everyone who is involved in this kind of work and doing what you all on this call are doing have an understanding of and are moving towards and have those moments of transcendence. Yes, where you are both the ego and the observation of the ego, where you are both the person and the soul who is in awe that they get to have this experience of being a person.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm. Nice. That was a good answer for not really having a question.
Maybe we should
Thank you.
rename this Discussions with Saul.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for your good questions today. We see that there are good themes here, and we appreciate you being able to work with each other's energy, work with each other's questions, work with each other's answers, and grow something larger than the sum of its parts. Yes, in these conversations. And so we appreciate you being here, and we always look forward to these, and we are excited to see what happens next. So thank you.